All right, cool. Well, recently I started trying out some new stuff in my workout programs because I've tried a lot of different stuff over the years. I did, your basic splits in high school when I was in football and stuff, and I experimented with a lot of stuff. The craze for a while was the Navy SEAL training exercises, and so when I was a kid, I used to do a lot of that back when I was like 16 and stuff at like a Snap Fitness gym. Um, the past few years, specifically about 3 years ago, I started the Mike Menser HIT training. And for me, it was ideal because I worked at a physically demanding job at the time, and trying to follow my previous workout splits just it wasn't working for me. I would dig too deep of a hole in my recovery, and it just wasn't working. So I did that for about 3 years, and I think I put on a considerable amount of mass. I went from maybe 210 when I started the Menser training to now I'm like 250 at 6 feet. So a lot of that was fat mass. So I bulked for a long time. But recently I've been trying to lose weight, get a little more cut. And I was just finding with the Mensa workout, unless I did an inordinate amount of cardio, I was having a hard time losing weight on HIT because you only work out every 4 days. Not a split of like, you do chest and then 4 days later you do chest again. No, it's like you do chest, then 4 days later you do legs, 4 days later you do back. So for me, I'm also someone who has struggled with sleep for a long time. So my recovery has always been really poor. Basically, the worst recovery profile somebody could have. And so for a long time, HIT was kind of my thing. But recently, I've been looking for alternatives. I live a more sedentary lifestyle now. I think that's another reason why I've put on so much mass since I left my manual labor job. Is I've kept the same amount of calories, but I haven't changed how I train really. So fast forward to beginning of last week. There's a guy I follow on Instagram, Joel Kellett. I think his handle on Instagram is Overkill. So he published a book. He claims to be natural. I don't know if he's actually natural. It seems legitimate. He gets tested in the leagues and stuff. I've heard that it's possible to fake natural status in the natural bodybuilding competitions, even the federated ones. I've heard there's cycles to it and stuff. He doesn't really seem like the kind of guy who would lie to me, though. But I know that's a concern people have, and so I'm just being upfront with it. No, I don't actually know, and I don't know if there is any empirical evidence or if he's gone on a long routine where he had his testosterone measured over a period of time, while also keeping track of the workouts he was doing. And you can correlate whether if someone loses strength during the period of time that they're being tested, then it's like, okay, did you cycle off something? What's going on? I don't know if he's ever done any of that, so I don't know. But I do think he has one of those goated physiques. They call him the natural Arnold. They call him, Arnold reincarnated. Well, that's what I call him. But yeah, he's got a great physique. He came out with a book. I know he's come out apparently with several books, but this one's kind of his comprehensive story. So I was like, I've tried all these fads. I tried the sugar diet, believe it or not. I don't think it's a bad diet. I'm not. I have nothing against it. I know people who've had a lot of success on it. For me, I think it's too bare of micronutrients. Specifically, And this will go into some of the things I saw with Joel. Joel Kellett talks about micronutrients specifically for men and helping maintain testosterone and building muscle mass. I think it's a little difficult to do that on the sugar diet because you get no cholesterol. It's a zero fat diet. So zero fat can have problems for hormonal balances unless you're someone who supplements through testosterone, which I think Mark Bell, he's a guy who's very popular. He talks about the sugar diet, which originally Cole Robinson, he's the guy who made the sugar diet, and Mark Bell kind of adopted it and has seen a lot of good results from it. However, Mark also is an admitted, he's very open about his steroid use, so it's very difficult to control for that. My personal experience on the diet, I did it. I did a 5-day sugar fast. I did 96 hours plus 24 hours. 120 hour fast on nothing but sugar products. And I did, the whole 9 yards based on fruit, lots of syrup, lots of honey. I lost a couple of pounds, but at the end I felt very, very depleted and trying to cycle on and off the diet. I tried that next, where I'd do the diet for a day and then I'd cycle off of it and eat things, and I felt very depleted, and at the same time I was still trying to do HIIT. So and this is nothing against HIIT or the Mike Mentzer method, but while I was trying to do that sugar diet, I was doing a heavy set of leg presses, and for the first time I think ever, I'm 25 now. I started training when I was like, I'd say 13, 14. Literally the first time ever happened, I tweaked my back while I was doing heavy leg presses. I was like, whoa, no. I am not an injury guy. I'm very injury adverse, which is one of the reasons that drew me to the Mentzer program. Was I felt I could recover in such a way that I could still go to the gym and hit very hard, but the risk of injury was lower. But through my personal experience, I found that if you go into a caloric deficit, I don't think HIIT is as ideal, especially with the larger compound movements. But anyways, all that being said, I've been reading Joel's new book. I forget the name. I'll leave a link in the description, I guess. But I've been reading through it. I'm about halfway through it. I've looked at some of his training splits, his philosophies, and some of the knowledge he shares about macronutrients, micronutrients, getting a lot of cholesterol in your diet, healthy stuff, like whole eggs. And I've been doing it for a couple of days. I had 6 whole eggs this morning. I think I had 3 or 4 the day before that. And it's like I flipped a switch. All of a sudden, a lot of these things that I'd been feeling, like I just was not getting sleep. I was struggling. My ability to concentrate, even my ability to just get joy out of simple things, everything was muted. And I had been very fat averse, I guess, in my diet for a long time. And I'm not saying this as a endorsement of a high fat diet, everything in moderation, but I added the eggs back in, and man, I've been feeling a lot better. I've added in some other things too, like canned white tuna, very cheap. I tried some canned roast beef, like great value roast beef tonight, which you can actually get, if you get the canned roast beef, you can get it for about $2.97 per pound per unit, where most beef is like $7 at the cheapest, $5 to $7 per unit. depending on where you live, of course. But I just found it was very cheap. I've been trying that, and Joel recommends, having red meat and eggs is something I saw him say in one of his comments recently. And so I've been doing that. I've been doing his training workout for, I'd say this is day 2. Yes, today's day 2, so tomorrow will be my 3rd. I decided to just, since I've been working out for so long, and I'm a fairly advanced lifter in the fact that, I have been working out fairly consistently since I was 15. I decided to just jump into the advanced version of his workouts, and it was a lot more the volume, just switching from hit to doing 3 sets to failure rather than just 1 set to failure. It's a huge jump. I had to go down considerably in a lot of the weight that I was pushing, and yet at the end of the workout I felt like I had stimulated the muscle to grow, and I had definitely reached a deeper level of muscle fatigue. So, it's day 2. We'll see how it goes. I don't know if I'll ever look like Joel Kellett, but I'd be interested to see how much progress I could make. I'm taking pics and stuff, and if it's anything that's, if it's considerable, yeah, I'll document and post my results. But until then, I'm just going to do my best and get my macro and micronutrients in and hit the 6-day split. see if it can actually work. I eventually I'll probably need to put in some cardio and stuff too, which I know that's important. But I ran half a mile to the gym and back, so 1 mile a day, maybe that's enough. I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of my experience with the Joel Kellett routine, I guess you could say, so far. Day 2, we'll give it a few weeks, maybe 6 weeks, and I'll post some results, some weight, and see if I can actually make some good progress with this. I think it's exciting, and yeah, we'll see. He claims he's natural. He claims he does all of this, and he claims this is what he does. So, hey, I'll give it a shot and see what happens. Cool.